The palace was beautiful beyond measure, built with stones from the farthest stars, and its towers reached into the sky, casting long shadows over the galaxy's brightest planets. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of rare flowers from distant worlds. The halls echoed with the sounds of delicate music, and lights glimmered like stars themselves. But for Princess Ivy, it all felt like a prison. She had spent most of her life in these luxurious walls, but they felt cold and suffocating now. There was a secret hidden in her blood, a secret that could tear everything apart. Princess Ivy was unlike the others in the Empire. The Empress had adopted her when she was a child, taking her in from Earth after a great war between their two worlds. Ivy had never known her true family. But she knew something about herself that no one else did. There was power inside her that could shatter empires. Her bloodline was ancient and strange. Ivy had spent her days studying the artifacts of her home world, Earth, and reading the old books in the royal library. She knew something was hidden from her, something big. It was on one such quiet night, when the stars were bright and the air was still, that Ivy stumbled upon an old book tucked away behind glass in a secret corner of the library. It was an old Earth book, one that hadn't been touched in centuries. The pages were worn and the words faded, but Ivy's eyes lit up when she saw the symbols. They were unlike anything she had seen before. Ivy carefully opened the book and began to read. It told a story of an ancient race, one that had been wiped out by a great war. But what caught Ivy's attention was the part about the bloodline that had survived. The text spoke of a royal family whose blood contained a secret that could bring down empires. Ivy's heart raced. Was this referring to her? Was this what she had felt inside her all these years? The more she read, the more she understood. The secret wasn't just about power, it was about control. Whoever held the secret in their blood could rule the galaxy, and Ivy was the last living descendant of this family. As Ivy sat there in the dim light, the weight of the discovery pressed on her chest. She knew she had to tell someone. But who? The Empress? She had always been kind to Ivy, but she had also been distant and cold. Ivy could never trust her completely. The soldiers in the palace were loyal, but were they loyal to her or to the Empire? Who could she trust? Suddenly she heard a sound behind her. It was soft, but sharp enough to make her freeze. Ivy quickly closed the book and turned around. Standing in the doorway was Captain Leo Grant. He was tall, his broad shoulders almost filling the entrance. His dark hair fell over his eyes and his expression was serious. "Princess," Leo said, his voice calm but with a hint of concern. "What are you doing here so late?" Ivy's heart skipped a beat. Leo was her closest friend. He had been with her since childhood, always by her side, watching over her. He was loyal, trustworthy, and kind. Ivy had always felt safe with him. But now, as she looked into his eyes, she wondered, could she trust him with this secret? "I was just reading," Ivy said, trying to hide the book behind her. Leo took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. "Reading what?" Ivy hesitated. She had always been open with Leo, but this was different. This was something she couldn't share so easily. The secret she had discovered was too dangerous. She didn't know what it would mean for the Empire or for herself if she shared it. It's just a book," Ivy said, her voice unsteady. "Nothing important." Leo didn't seem convinced. He walked closer, his eyes fixed on her. "You've been spending a lot of time in here lately. What's going on, Ivy?" Ivy swallowed hard. She couldn't lie to him forever, but she couldn't tell him the truth either. If the wrong person found out about the secret in her blood, everything would change. The Empire would come after her and the people she cared about would be in danger. I'm fine, Leo," Ivy said, forcing a smile. "Really, just tired. I should get some rest." Leo studied her for a moment. his face softening. "All right," he said, "but if you need anything, I'm here." Ivy nodded, feeling a knot form in her stomach. As Leo turned and left, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. She had a secret, and it was growing harder to keep it. Soon she would have to make a choice. Tell the truth, or keep hiding it. But as Ivy turned back to the book, she heard a voice in her mind echoing from the past. The secret could topple an empire. Her hands trembled as she placed the book down carefully. The secret was bigger than she had imagined, and it was already too late to go back. The next few days were a blur for Princess Ivy. The discovery of the book and the secret within it weighed heavily on her mind. Every corner of the palace seemed to be watching her. Every face a mask of politeness, but behind those eyes, she knew, was suspicion. The palace, once a place of comfort, now felt like a labyrinth of secrets. There was no one she could trust, and the more she thought about it, the more certain she became that she couldn't keep the secret hidden forever. Ivy spent long hours in her private chambers, staring out the window at the stars, her mind racing. The more she thought about her discovery, the more questions arose. Who else knew? Was she the only one who had this power? The answers were out there, but they were buried deep. She could feel it. And now, she was unsure if revealing the truth would be a path to freedom or to her destruction. It was on the 4th day after her discovery when Ivy decided to speak to Leo. She couldn't carry this weight alone anymore. She needed someone to help her understand what to do next. Leo had always been her protector, her closest friend. She had never known a world without him by her side. But now, as she walked through the silent halls toward the place they often met, Ivy wondered if things would ever be the same between them. Could she tell him everything? Was she ready to risk everything for the chance to trust him fully? When Ivy reached the training yard, she found Leo as usual, practicing with the guards. His movements were sharp and precise, his sword slicing through the air in a series of controlled strikes. It was the way he always trained, focused, determined. Ivy stood at the edge of the yard, watching him for a moment before calling out softly, "Leo?" He stopped mid-swing, his gaze shifting to her. He wiped the sweat from his brow and smiled, his usual warmth returning as he approached her. "Ivy," he said, his voice low but kind. "What's on your mind? You've been distant lately." Ivy hesitated, her fingers playing nervously with the fabric of her dress. She wanted to say so much, but the words felt too heavy. What if Leo didn't understand? What if he couldn't be trusted with the truth? I need to talk to you about something," Ivy said finally, her voice trembling slightly. Leo's expression softened. "Of course. What's troubling you?" She took a deep breath, gathering the courage she needed. "It's about the book I found in the library. There's something I discovered about my bloodline. Something important. Something dangerous." Leo's eyebrows furrowed, and for a moment there was silence between them. His concern was clear, but he said nothing as he waited for Ivy to continue. I'm not like the others here, Leo. I'm not just some adopted princess. My blood carries something that could destroy the empire." Ivy's words tumbled out in a rush, the weight of them making her feel like the ground beneath her was shaking. Leo stepped back, his face unreadable for a moment. Then he shook his head, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "Ivy, what are you talking about? You're just—" He stopped himself, realizing the seriousness of her tone. "I'm not just a princess," Ivy repeated, her voice steady now. "My family, my bloodline. It's not what they told you. The Empress, the Empire. They don't know what's inside me. If they did, they'd come after me. And they'd come after anyone who stands with me." Leo took a step toward her, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean by that? What's in your blood?" Ivy felt the fear rise inside her again. She had been so certain before, but now speaking the truth made it feel even more real. I don't know exactly what it is, but the book, it says that whoever has this bloodline has the power to destroy the Empire. And if I don't figure out what to do with it, the Empire will find out, and they'll use it against me. Leo was silent for a long time, his eyes locked on hers. Ivy's heart beat loudly in her chest, and she could see the struggle in his face. It was clear that he was torn, between the Empire he served and the woman he had sworn to protect. Finally, Leo spoke, his voice low. You can't be serious. If this is true, if what you're saying is real, then why haven't you told the Empress? Why hide it? Ivy bit her lip. Because I don't trust her, she said softly. She raised me, yes, but I've seen things I can't ignore anymore. If I tell her about this, I don't know what she'll do. She could use me, or worse. Leo's eyes softened, and he took a step closer to her. Ivy, you've always been like a sister to me. But if what you're saying is true, then we need to do something about it. You can't just keep hiding from this. I know, Ivy whispered. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm overreacting? What if I make things worse? Ivy, Leo said, his voice firm but gentle, you're not overreacting. The truth is dangerous, but hiding it won't make it go away. You need to decide what to do with it. And whatever you decide, I'll be with you. Ivy felt a small sense of relief. Leo's words gave her hope. But the fear still lingered in the back of her mind. She had trusted him for so long, but could she really trust him with this? Could she trust anyone? For a moment, she closed her eyes and thought about what Leo had said. She had to act before the Empire found out the truth. But how? She had no answers. Only the weight of the secret pressing down on her chest. I don't know what to do, Leo, Ivy said, her voice barely a whisper. Leo's expression softened, and he placed a hand gently on her shoulder. We'll figure it out together. You're not alone in this. Ivy looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and uncertainty. Could she trust him completely? The secret she carried was more than just a burden. It was a weapon, and weapons could be turned against their creators. But she had no choice. She had to trust someone. And right now, Leo was the only one she could rely on. But as she looked into his eyes, she wondered if she was making a mistake. Could she truly trust him with the most dangerous secret in the galaxy? The days that followed were filled with tension. Ivy had confided in Leo, but the secret she carried inside her only grew heavier. She had hoped that revealing the truth would bring her some sense of relief, but instead, it only deepened the questions and fears that clouded her mind. Was she doing the right thing? Was Leo truly on her side, or was he simply playing a part? Despite the confusion, Ivy knew one thing for sure. She couldn't stay hidden forever. The Empire would eventually find out about the secret in her bloodline, and when they did, there would be no escaping the consequences. It wasn't just about her life. It was about the fate of the entire galaxy. Ivy spent her days wandering the halls of the palace, her mind racing. She had always loved the palace, with its grand corridors and beautiful gardens, but now it felt like a cage. Every corner seemed to hide a new danger, every face a potential enemy. She couldn't trust anyone, not even the ones she thought she knew best. One evening, Ivy found herself alone in the royal gardens, standing beneath a large tree that had been planted in honor of the Empress's victory over a rival empire. The tree's branches spread wide above her, and its leaves rustled softly in the wind. It was peaceful here, a quiet place where Ivy could think without distraction. But even in this serene setting, the weight of her secret felt unbearable. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sound, footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, her heart racing. Standing at the edge of the garden was Leo. His face was unreadable, his posture stiff. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Leo," Ivy said softly, her voice trembling, "what are you doing here?" Leo hesitated before taking a few steps closer. His eyes were dark, his usual warmth replaced by something colder, more distant. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low. Ivy felt a chill run down her spine. Something about his tone made her uneasy. She had trusted Leo with everything. Everything. But now, she wasn't so sure. She had seen the look in his eyes when he had left their conversation a few days ago. It was a look of doubt, a look that made her question whether he believed in her or if he was simply humoring her. "What is it?" "Leo?" Ivy asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Leo stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "About the secret in your bloodline, about the power you carry. I've been trying to understand it, to make sense of it all, and I've realized something." Ivy's heart skipped a beat. "What have you realized?" Leo took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't think we can keep this hidden anymore. The Empress, she's not the only one who needs to know the truth. If this power really exists, then it's too dangerous to keep to ourselves. We have to tell the others. We have to warn the Empire." Ivy felt a rush of panic. "No, Leo. You don't understand. If we tell anyone, if the Empress finds out, she'll use it to control me, to control everything. This power, it's not just dangerous for us. It's dangerous for everyone." Leo stepped closer, his voice urgent. "But Ivy, you can't just hide forever. You can't keep running from this. The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes. If the Empire finds out on their own, they'll destroy you. They'll come for you, and for everyone who's ever been close to you." Ivy's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, but the fear that had been growing inside her for days made her doubt. She knew the Empress would stop at nothing to secure power. The Empire had always been about control, and now Ivy was the key to that control. If she let the secret slip, if she told anyone, it could be the end of everything. "I can't trust anyone, Leo," Ivy whispered, her voice shaking. "I can't trust the Empress. I can't trust the Empire. I don't even know if I can trust you." Leo froze, his eyes widening with hurt. "What are you saying?" His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with disbelief. Ivy stepped back, her heart racing. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, trying to collect her thoughts. "I don't know what to do anymore. You've been my friend for so long, but Before Ivy could finish, Leo reached out and grabbed her arm. His grip was tight, his face a mixture of anger and frustration. "Don't," Leo said, his voice low and threatening. "Don't pull away from me now. I'm trying to help you." Ivy's eyes widened in shock. She hadn't expected him to act this way. Leo had always been kind and protective, but now something had changed. There was a coldness in his eyes, a determination that frightened her. "I don't need your help," Ivy shouted, pulling away from him. "I don't need anyone's help." For a moment, there was only silence between them. Ivy's breath came in shallow gasps as she tried to control her emotions. She had never seen Leo like this before. He was different, angry, desperate, and it scared her. "Fine," Leo said, his voice flat. "If that's how you feel, then maybe you don't need me. Maybe you don't need anyone." Ivy's stomach twisted. She could see the pain in Leo's eyes, and it broke her heart. But she had to protect herself. She had to protect the secret. Without another word, Leo turned and walked away, leaving Ivy standing in the garden, alone. The air around her felt heavy, and her mind raced with questions. Had she just lost her only ally? Had she just lost Leo? The pain of the betrayal felt like a knife in her chest. She had trusted Leo with everything, and now it felt like he was slipping away from her. But she couldn't let herself be weak. She couldn't let her emotions get in the way of the decisions that had to be made. As the night fell over the palace, Ivy stood there in the garden, staring into the distance. She had no idea what the future held. But she knew one thing. She couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not even Leo. The days after Leo's betrayal were some of the hardest in Ivy's life. She spent most of her time alone, trying to come to terms with everything that had happened. The palace, which once felt like a home, now felt like a prison. The weight of her secret pressed down on her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. She had always believed that she could trust Leo. He had been her friend, her protector, her only real ally in a world of strangers. But now she wasn't so sure. He had walked away from her, and that hurt more than she could have imagined. The anger in his eyes when he had left her in the garden, it still haunted her. But Ivy knew she couldn't dwell on her pain. The secret she carried was too dangerous to ignore. The Empire would eventually find out, and when they did, they would come for her. There was no time to waste. She had to make a choice, stay and face the consequences or run and hide, hoping for a chance to fight back. That night, Ivy stood in front of her bedroom window, looking out at the stars. The city below her was quiet, the lights of the palace twinkling in the distance. She had always loved this view, the way the stars seemed to stretch on forever. But now, the sight of them made her feel small and insignificant. The galaxy was a vast place, but she couldn't escape it, not with the secret she carried. She knew she couldn't stay in the palace much longer. The longer she waited, the more dangerous it became. The Empress would never let her go, and Leo, if he truly had betrayed her, wouldn't be there to protect her. Ivy's only choice was to leave, to escape while she still had a chance. Her decision was made. She had to go. The next morning, Ivy packed a small bag with the essentials she could carry, a few changes of clothes, some food, a weapon for protection, and, most importantly, the book she had found in the library. The book held the key to her bloodline secret, and it was the one thing she couldn't afford to leave behind. She had to be careful. The palace guards were everywhere, and she couldn't afford to be seen leaving. Ivy had learned the layout of the palace over the years, and she knew of a hidden passage that led outside the walls. It wasn't well known, and she hoped it would be her escape route. As she made her way through the palace, Ivy's heart raced. Every shadow seemed to hide an enemy. Every creak of the floorboards felt like an alarm. She moved quietly, keeping to the shadows, her eyes darting around in search of any sign of danger. But so far, the halls were empty. When Ivy reached the hidden passage, she paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. This was it. There was no turning back now. The passage was narrow and dark, its walls damp with age. Ivy made her way through the tunnel, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She didn't know where the tunnel would lead, but she knew it would take her far from the palace, far from the Empire that wanted to control her. As Ivy emerged from the tunnel and stepped into the cool night air, she felt a sense of freedom wash over her. The stars above seemed brighter now, as if they were welcoming her into the unknown. She had escaped, at least for now, but the freedom was short-lived. Just as Ivy began to take a step forward, she heard a noise behind her, a rustle in the bushes. She spun around, her heart racing, her hand instinctively reaching for the weapon she had packed. Out of the shadows emerged a figure, tall, wearing a cloak that covered most of their body. Ivy's breath caught in her throat. Could it be one of the palace guards? Had they followed her? "Ivy!" a voice called, soft but familiar. Ivy's heart skipped a beat. She recognized the voice. It was Leo. For a moment, Ivy just stood there, staring at him. Leo stepped forward slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. His eyes were no longer angry, but filled with something else, something Ivy couldn't quite read. "You shouldn't be here," Ivy said, her voice tight. "What do you want, Leo?" I'm not here to hurt you, Leo said, his voice calm but firm. I was worried about you. I don't want you to run away. Ivy shook her head, her heart pounding. I can't stay. I can't trust you, Leo. I can't trust anyone. Leo looked hurt, but he didn't back away. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm here to help you, Ivy. I didn't betray you. I couldn't. I was just trying to figure out what's going on. I'm still your friend. Ivy's mind raced. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him again. But the pain of his betrayal, the way he had walked away from her in the garden, it was hard to forget. Why should I believe you? Ivy asked, her voice shaking. How do I know you're not here to turn me in? To tell the Empress where I am? Leo took a step closer, his expression serious. Because I'm not the enemy, Ivy. You're not alone in this. I made a mistake, but I want to fix it. I want to help you. Ivy stood still, torn. She couldn't let herself be weak. She couldn't let herself trust Leo again, not after everything that had happened. But deep down, she knew that Leo was the only person who might understand what she was going through. I can't stay here, Ivy said, her voice barely a whisper. I have to go. Leo looked at her, his eyes softening. Then let me help you. You don't have to do this alone. Ivy hesitated. Could she trust him? Could she let him help her? For a long moment, the only sound was the wind rustling through the trees. Finally, Ivy nodded, her decision made. All right, she said quietly. But if you betray me again, Leo, I'll never forgive you. I won't, Leo promised. I swear it. And so, with a reluctant but hopeful heart, Ivy agreed to let Leo help her. Together, they would leave the palace behind and find a way to escape the empire that wanted to control her. But even as she walked away with Leo, Ivy couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning, and that there were more dangers waiting for them out there in the galaxy. The stars above were a blanket of light in the endless sky, but Ivy couldn't enjoy their beauty. The decision she had made to trust Leo again weighed heavily on her heart. They had left the palace under the cover of night, walking through the dark forests of the planet, far away from the place she had once called home. Yet, the farther they went, the more Ivy realized how little she truly knew about the galaxy beyond the palace walls. Every step she took felt like she was entering unknown territory, both in the world and within herself. Leo walked beside her, his presence a comfort, but also a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. Ivy couldn't shake the memory of their last conversation in the garden. She had questioned his loyalty, and for a moment, she wondered if he was still the same Leo she had trusted for so many years. But when he had come after her in the woods, when he had promised to help her, something inside her softened. Maybe he wasn't the enemy she feared. Maybe he was still the friend she had always known. Ivy, Leo said, his voice breaking the silence between them. I know you're scared. I know you don't trust me, but I'm here now. I'll help you figure this out. We'll get through this together. Ivy didn't respond right away. She had so many thoughts swirling in her mind. The truth she had learned about her bloodline, the power she possessed, it was all too much. She couldn't just ignore it. She had to make a choice. Leo, Ivy said finally, her voice low. Do you know what this means? Do you understand the danger we're in? The secret I carry? It's not just something that can change the empire, it could destroy it. Leo looked at her, his expression serious. I understand, Ivy. I know how dangerous this is. But running away, hiding, how long can we do that? The Empire will come after you no matter where you go. They'll find you. I know, Ivy said, her eyes on the ground. But I can't let them control me. I can't let them use me. If I give them what they want, if I tell them what's in my blood, I don't know what will happen. I don't know if I can trust anyone, not even the Empress. Leo stopped walking, turning to face her. You don't have to decide everything right now. But you can't keep running forever. Sooner or later, you'll have to face the truth. You'll have to choose what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to hide in the shadows? Or do you want to stand up and take control of your life? Ivy felt a pang in her chest. She had always been careful, always kept to the shadows. She had always believed that she was meant to be a princess, but not a ruler. She had been content to stay in the background, to live a quiet life. But now, with the secret in her blood, everything had changed. "Leo," Ivy whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face this, to make the right choice. What if I fail? What if I destroy everything?" Leo took a step closer, his hand reaching out to gently touch her arm. "You're stronger than you'd think, Ivy. You've always been strong. You've just never had to face something like this before. But I believe in you." For a moment, Ivy closed her eyes, feeling the weight of Leo's words settle into her chest. She had never thought of herself as strong. She had always seen herself as the princess in the background, the one who was kept safe, protected from the dangers of the galaxy. But now, the galaxy had found her, and she had no choice but to fight. She opened her eyes and looked up at Leo, meeting his gaze. "What if I take control? What if I use the power I have?" Leo's face softened, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "You'll have to be careful, Ivy. Power like that, it can change you. It can consume you. You have to be sure you're ready for what comes next." Ivy nodded slowly, her thoughts a whirlwind. She knew Leo was right. Power could change a person. It could make them do things they never thought possible. But she couldn't keep running. She couldn't live in fear anymore. She had to make her own fate, take control of her future. She couldn't let anyone, Empress Valera, the Empire, or even her own fear, dictate what she did next. "I'm ready," Ivy said finally, her voice steady. "I'll take control. I'll face whatever comes next." Leo nodded, a look of pride in his eyes. "Then we'll do this together. We'll make sure you're not alone." Ivy's heart felt lighter, but the weight of her decision still lingered. She had made her choice, but the future was still uncertain. She didn't know what would happen once she revealed the truth. Once the Empire knew what was inside her, she didn't know if she could trust Leo, or if the Empress would accept her as a powerful force in her own right. But one thing was clear: she couldn't stay in the shadows anymore. It was time to step into the light and face her destiny. The days that followed were filled with preparations. Ivy and Leo traveled to the distant planets, seeking answers and allies. They met with former rebels who had fought against the Empire, hoping to gain support. Ivy knew that she couldn't do this alone. She needed others to stand by her side. And as they traveled, Ivy began to understand the full scope of her power. It was more than just the ability to control the galaxy. It was the ability to change it. Her bloodline had been hidden for centuries, kept secret for a reason. But now, the galaxy needed her to decide how that power would be used. As they approached the heart of the Empire, Ivy knew that the final choice would come soon. Would she stand against the Empire, take the throne, and rule with the power she had always possessed? Or would she destroy it, break the chains that bound the galaxy to the Empire's control? In the end, the choice was hers, but no matter what she decided, she knew that she wouldn't be alone. Leo was by her side, and together, they would face whatever came next.